presentation, a bit of insights into the digital analytics industry, predominantly from a New Zealand perspective. Before I kind of go into a little bit more detail, I'm hoping you guys are enjoying the conference and a lot of the presentations already that you've seen. And hopefully my presentation is able to add on top of a lot of the presentation you've seen today. So who am I? Well, I'd like to give a brief background and understanding of my expertise and the experiences I've kind of gained throughout my years working in this space. I've been working in the marketing, digital and data space for over a decade, which I've kind of taken and I've taken several roles from web administration, the development of, I would say, marketing collaterals, as well as digital marketing pieces of work. And then I kind of shifted to more focused on digital analytics, and recently have taken on a new role that's kind of focused on digital and social intelligence from a social listening, trends detection, delivery perspective. I'm also a co-organizer of the Auckland Data Analytics Wednesdays networking event that we put on every month. And I'm also a part of the Measure Camp Auckland committee as well, putting on an annual sort of gathering of practitioners like ourselves who are kind of sharing what we have done, and also encourage others to share their expertise as well. So I'm hoping today, putting a huge caveat, is to provide you just I would say, my sort of perspective and my sort of through connections with the various different people and practitioners in the Auckland community, a little bit more on a view on what's happening and what is predominantly our focus here in New Zealand. So today I will take you through a kind of brief overview about the New Zealand market. What's the New Zealand business and tech environment? And then we're going to shift into a bit more understanding on the industries that are leveraging digital work within the New Zealand business area. And thirdly, what we'll be doing is then go a bit more narrow and kind of focused on, well, what are the priorities digital analysts like myself and practitioners who are specializing in the area are kind of more priority key focus areas. So let's go into the first area, is about understanding the New Zealand market and the New Zealand environment. Well, let's have a look at, firstly, is how many of New Zealand businesses are actually large. Actually, 99% of New Zealand businesses are very small and small to medium size, which meant they only have kind of employees less than 100 people. And in terms of GDP, it's almost like half of New Zealand businesses are generating just about under half of New Zealand's GDP, with the 99%. So of those big businesses, we are looking at around about less than 3,000, and of those around about 3,000 only they have just over 100 employees. So if you're looking at size and scale, it doesn't really compare to huge global businesses, but we do have a few. It's just that the number of them aren't that numerous. So if you're then shifting into, well, what are the key influential businesses? The tech sector is actually providing a huge number of GDP, and it's around about our second largest export earner of around about 15 billion as of 2022. So then if you're looking at broader kind of business areas, so if you're saying that in New Zealand, we are predominantly are small businesses, that means that if from a digital analytics offering service, small businesses are very much more self-service, and they don't really need a lot of specialists for their kind of solutions. So a lot of the demo, in terms of when I've worked in one of the other small, I would say, small business providers, such as Yellow Pages, we do kind of more digital analytics offerings from a large scale, but very much light touch solutions and services for these small businesses. But in saying that, if we were then shifting into what is actually required and who is in demand for the digital analytics work in New Zealand, we can look at roundabout broadly 4 sectors that is currently in demand for digital analytics work. So let's take a look at the first kind of sector, which is very much in the finance. So the finance is very much more from a banking, and within the banking sector, they are really looking for digital experiences from optimization in their mobile applications or digitization of their finance products, such as insurance sort of forms, or optimizing the ways that they engage or service their customers through digital experience and through digital offerings. So this helps them to reduce their reliance on in-person support, such as, like stores, not stores, but very much more from a banking interface perspective. So that helps to reduce on that, and then provide more, I would say, direct customer sort of solutions for more self-service. So those are really kind of where the banking focus and needs from a digital analytics area is more creating better customer experience for their digital solutions, and so shifting from a brick and mortar focus towards more digital focus. And from my conversations with people working in the banking sector, they were saying that they're trying to shift a lot of their services, kind of almost half of their services, towards digital. So the next kind of sector is in the tech. So tech sector employs digital analysts to help, I would say, optimize their digital products from their kind of UX and UI experiences, from design to performance. So we're looking at, in terms of their working with tech teams to improve and create a digital product for optimization of experience. So a lot of work in the digital analytics space is very much from an in-house team or as part of an agency providing tech solutions for in-house teams. So currently, many big businesses, especially in the tech sector, have shifted towards more of an agile kind of methodology or framework and approach, and therefore people working in the space requires a lot more an understanding and experience working with agile teams and delivery will look to, I would say, be more employable in this space, especially from a tech area. And the tools and platforms that's being leveraged in the space is really kind of more on very few vendors. They are all, because these, how kind of tech businesses are looking for, especially from areas like the area, kind of within the tech sector, I feel like you can either go to two ways, very much from a startup. A startup is very much easier. So you'll find kind of more bespoke, more open source, but whereas if you are a bit more enterprise level, they'd like to have more kind of full package support, would like to have some partners who can then help service large sort of demands, and they help reduce a lot of the continuity plan that comes with that risk. If you do not have continual support and don't have the talent in-house, you need to ensure that the partners you partner with are actually providing that for you. So hence they only go to these kind of vendors who have kind of backup plans or talent, or at least support. Not only, especially if it's not in market, at least they can reach out to their broader teams in other markets to provide that support. So usually the players and the vendors that we're seeing here in New Zealand are like Salesforce, Microsoft, Adobe, or Google. And so those are the ones that who have a lot of global networks and connections that can help support New Zealand businesses. And so there are other, I would say, tools I've heard that has been leveraged as well, like Telium or HubSpot, predominantly from a broader tech solution. So tech solution is not only providing just the tool itself, but more of a tech stack. And so if the solution provider or partner helps bring that tech stack, that is more of an ideal sort of partner. And so the next sector that's leveraging a lot of digital analytics is in the media space, where majority of experiences and work can be found for digital analytics in the paid, social, and digital marketing arena, really. And the work is really much more from a optimization of targeting of audiences, looking at also optimization of marketing spend, and where we're looking at is also the effectiveness of the spend and the efficiency of those spend. So those are really kind of the core key features or focus for a lot of the digital analytics work. And then in this kind of media arena. So where within New Zealand, you would kind of looking at in terms of what media agencies are people working for, and who expertise and experience is coming from is actually from the big media agencies like WPP, Publicis Group, Dentsu, or Omnicom Group. Those are really kind of just an example of a few that's here in New Zealand that is providing the digital analytics expertise and services for teams working in this space. So the next sector is in the e-commerce. So e-commerce for New Zealand is not as mature as you would say some other markets like the US, or I think the growing trend in Southeast Asia, especially also in China, that for New Zealand, our kind of big businesses are only getting sort of on board within the e-commerce space. Huge retail chains like the Warehouse rise, well, because of our kind of big businesses are only getting sort of on board within the e-commerce space. Huge retail chains like the Warehouse Group, or our large supermarkets like Countdown and Foodstuff are only within the rise, well, because of COVID, a transition need from offline to online meant that they need to do a lot more investment within the space. And you were seeing a lot of increasing sort of focus and activity that's been happening the last few years, especially when COVID rise, and there was a need to do online shopping, that there was a lot more focus there now. So again, within all these kind of sectors, what kind of key themes on in terms of tools that's kind of pop up is very much more from a Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is a very dominant tool here in New Zealand. There are very few businesses who do use other tools such as Adobe or Piwik Pro, but most of other tools, people I don't often hear as much, or they either do it from a bespoke or very much more, they would either have relationships with broader global teams that would provide those other additional analytics tools and solutions. One of the reasons why we kind of more stick to the Google tools is that it helps almost kind of connect with the advertising sort of arena, such as from a Google perspective, the use of retargeting and remarketing from a paid search perspective, and that's why we are very much more heavily skewed towards the Google Analytics stack. So in terms of where we're then focused and how we then looked at the challenges of analysts and what the where our priorities are in terms of delivery for the work that we are doing. So the next focus areas are very much more what we're seeing, what I kind of see within the market is the shifting towards more a CX lens and a CX approach. What this means from a CX is customer experience. And customer experiences bring a holistic view, not just only focused on a activity or optimization of a feature, but it's very much more from an end-to-end. And so what we generally look at is not only from a solutioning on how we create experiences for our customers, but very much more what is the technology stack and processes needed to service that. So it's approaching the CX holistically from end to end and looking at it from a almost like a time series approach. So if you're starting out throughout the year, what would your approach and connection with your customer as they progress month on month, year on year? So it's very much more, how do we build that continual experience from the first, before they become a customer, to when they become a customer, to then build in terms of deeper relationships. So those needs to be mapped out, needs to be strategized, and needs to be prioritized. So hence, instead of just focusing on just a user interface or user design, we're actually looking at how we are experiencing or creating those experiences for our customers through the UI and UX. And so that is really where the broader focus is now. And there's a lot of conversations happening, especially for the last year and the year before. There is a growing trend towards more focused on CX. Another kind of area is in terms of, instead of focus on privacy, we're looking at protection of data. We have to make sure, so within the, I would say, data space, in terms of the prioritization is on cybersecurity over privacy. So privacy is still a prominent kind of focused, but it is very much more through the lens of cybersecurity, because there were incidents in New Zealand in the past where healthcare data was, I would say, used or kind of well, you've probably seen in the past where hackers, locked data or stole data, and they want to ransom that data, and the company would have to pay for it to get those type of data back. Well, this will happen to one of our healthcare sort of providers, and this was then brought up the need to ensure that cybersecurity is actually top of mind and more prioritized over the privacy aspect of things. So then, so where we're looking at is a lot of the focus is very much more ensuring that our systems are well protected and secure, and making, instead of trying to make sure that there is consent kind of given. We already in 2020, New Zealand went through a privacy policy sort of update. So we are seen to be already kind of up to date. It's just that the practice of and the stringent focus on privacy and consent isn't as high as that in the EU, for example. So our kind of more focus area within New Zealand, our prioritization is on the security aspect. The next kind of area for analysts is, as you probably know, have heard, and it's a lot of talk already in this space. There are cookies are going away, third-party cookies are going away. So hence a focus for a lot of the analysts and digital practitioners is very much more either shifting towards the first-party data set up from a marketing and remarketing perspective, or a shift towards more contextual targeting. So what that means is that there is a lot more effort towards more ensuring actually how do we collect our first party data, and whether ensuring that also our system is able to collect it correctly in the first place and be able to report it first, and then we make sure that we're able to analyze it before we start stitching and integrating all our data systems together. And the other part, where those who aren't able to invest in the first party data strategy is then looking at either how do we then shift towards more contextual targeting approach. So that is very much more, as a digital analyst, is very much understanding cohorts of audiences rather than specific individual personalization. It's very much how do we create group experiences rather than their individual experiences. So I'm hoping in that sort of summation that I provided gives you a view on the New Zealand market. Why are we kind of more focused on delivering more from a specialist area? Because majority of our smaller businesses don't have a lot of resourcing and really kind of need from a kind of continued specialist support in the New Zealand market. So 99% of New Zealand business is very small, but there are a few large businesses who do need to kind of have dedicated digital analysts providing those solutions. And the work that we kind of more focused on, and the sectors that are generally driving it, is in the finance, in the media, in the e-commerce, and in the tech area. So those are the sectors that generally have demand for digital analysts. And the challenges that we're kind of focused on in terms of addressing is very much now approaching it from a broader CX lens. And also still privacy isn't as top of mind, rather than data protection and security is very much more top of mind from a data needs perspective, or data protection approach. And the kind of final area that we're kind of shifting for, and is a continual challenge, is very much more shifting towards more activating first party data strategies rather than continue on investing in any kind of optimization focused kind of areas. So I'm hoping because of all that, I'll just finish with my presentation.